You've got to be a particular type of individual, I would argue a particularly sick and twisted individual, to use a genuine crisis impacting your family, potentially destroying the family business, to try and make this about you, to try and score some petty and pathetic points, to try and sell your product. But I don't think you'll be surprised when I tell you that is exactly how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been behaving in the 24 hours since the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a situation that plunges Harry's dad's, King Charles's, reign into the most perilous place it has ever been. Indeed, many say this is the most perilous place the British royal family has been in modern history. So if you're Harry and Meghan, who, by the way, cannot take the moral high ground when it comes to Andrew, have you seen a statement from them criticising the disgraced Duke? No, I didn't think so. Guess what they do after what happened? First, Meghan decides to punt some new product with a little nudge to what's going on. I'll tell you about that in just one moment. Second, Harry gets his goons to brief People magazine, which we know just operates as a propagandist for the Sussexes, to say, oh, this was just so unfair on me. This was so unfair on me. Here's the headline: Prince Harry frustrated by comparisons to Andrew, whose arrest is embarrassing for the entire family. So there he is, putting the boot in, with an insider saying Harry has long resented comparisons to his uncle as Andrew's arrest reverberates through the royal family. Well, let me just tell you for 1 second. There are so many comparisons between Harry and Andrew. Remember, Andrew at this stage has been arrested for misconduct in public office, not for any sex trafficking offences, although that may come, given that there are multiple investigations going on, given that police continue to search one of Andrew's royal residences over this coming weekend. So I'm not saying that this isn't going to get worse. But what William and Catherine have said for a long time and warned the King about for a long time is that the behaviour of Harry and Meghan echoes that of Andrew and Fergie just 30 years ago. Because they're desperate for money too. They're getting in with dodgy characters too. They're using their royal titles too. So I'm sorry, there are parallels. But here's the briefing from Team Sussex, who decided that yesterday was the day to put the boot into the British royal family, to People magazine. Prince Harry has long felt frustrated by comparisons to his uncle, former Prince Andrew, a sentiment sources say predates Andrew's arrest, but now offers insight into how Harry has viewed the family's internal fault lines for years. He was frustrated by the comparisons. It was never fair to lump them together, an insider tells People. Harry served his country, did the job well, and never engaged in misconduct, yet lost security and housing, while Andrew was protected for years. I sort of disagree that Harry has done the job well and never engaged in misconduct. I mean, I would argue that it is serious misconduct to falsely claim that an institution is racist, to try and bring down an institution with lies, and then all of a sudden when you've realised you've lost the battle, to completely do a 180 and backtrack without the mere hint of an apology. But the People propaganda piece went on. That contrast has taken on renewed relevance following Andrew's arrest on Thursday, February the 19th, which sources describe as embarrassing for the wider family. Well, yes, of course it is. In this moment, it's sad and embarrassing for the entire family, the insider says. It leaves a stain on everybody. Okay, well, I do agree with that. It does. It also leaves a stain on Harry and Meghan, who, as I say, have not released any type of statement condemning Andrew. As for Harry, the insider says his reaction would be consistent with long-held beliefs rather than a response to the arrest itself. Harry believes in justice and accountability. That's very much in line with his character, the source says, noting Harry's multiple court cases in the UK in recent years against the UK tabloid press. Well, look, we're going to come to that later. But to try and say that what Harry is doing in the British courtroom at the moment is anything to do with justice and accountability is a joke. I have been following the testimony inside the UK High Court across the week. What Harry is actually trying to do and what Harry's team are actually trying to do is destroy the reputation of very, very good journalists, one of whom is dead. That's how low this scumbag is going. So don't talk to me about him believing in justice and accountability. I need you to do something for me right now. It is free, it is easy, it is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet. Then we come to Meghan, who decided to use this opportunity to try and sell a product. And she was making a point. It was very obvious that she was making a point. As Tom Sykes of the Royalist Substack put it, Meghan taunts Andrew with cozy tonight's plan post. Ouch. Sykes went on, you may recall that Harry wrote in his memoir that he and Meghan were discussing the possibility of losing security, which he also said, not in the wake of my uncle Andrew. He was embroiled in a shameful scandal, accused of the sexual assault of a young woman, and no one had so much as suggested that he'd lose his security. Whatever grievances people had against us, sex crimes weren't on the list. Meghan took the opportunity to subtly remind us of the difference between them and the Yorks today with this mail shot from her As Ever brand. It said, soothe your senses. And then she decided to include a tip. And she clearly thinks her audience is stupid. I mean, listen to what her tip is. Add a spoonful of sweetness to your night too. Stir As Ever honey into a mug. Spoon it onto a little late night toast. Or build a cozy snack board with whatever's in the pantry. Thank you for that, Meghan, but we understand the point that you were making. Now, of course, what the Sussex squad are doing is trying to use that one quote from the autobiography Spare to suggest that Harry and Meghan have in some type of meaningful way ever spoken about Andrew. Ellie Hall, do you remember her? She used to be a propagandist for the Sussexes. I think she worked for BuzzFeed until she was sacked. And she's used that line as well. But let me just tell you something. That was one line in Spare. There was not a single mention of Prince Andrew, that's what he was then known, in the Netflix documentary, in the Oprah interview, in the Anderson Cooper interview, in the Tom Bradby interview, in any of Meghan's multiple magazine interviews. Because she and he didn't give a damn about Andrew. What they cared about was trying to take down Charles and take down Camilla and take down William and take down Catherine. So this rewriting of history going on is utterly infuriating. I mean, you remember I reported a lot at the time about what was really going on because I'd broken the story of Megxit. And I know for a fact that one of the reasons that Beatrice and Eugenie effectively sided with Harry and Meghan over William and Catherine at that time, that was a decision I think the princesses will come to rue, but at the time they did. And it was in part because they wanted to almost guilt trip Harry and Meghan into not turning on Andrew. And they were successful in doing so. But there's another Sussex squad conspiracy theory, and I don't usually use that term actually, so I'll just call it a lie, because in my view, conspiracy theories usually come true. And I'm often called a conspiracy theorist, and I would argue it's a truth teller. So I'll take that back, and I'll just say a lie being spread by the Sussex squad is this, and it's also being perpetuated by Ellie Hall. So let me just take you through it. Onye Nkuzi wrote, I don't usually talk about these things, but I have a feeling that British tabloid media piled it on Harry and Meghan to deflect attention away from Andrew. And Ellie Hall, the purveyor of Sussex squad lies, added, I have always found it interesting that one of Harry and Meghan's worst royal media cycles, their use of private jets in August 2019, began the same day new pictures of Prince Andrew at Epstein's New York home in December 2010 were published. Okay, can I just clear this up once and for all? Without the British media, of which at that time I was a part, because they used to do a good job then. I mean, you know, I think now the mainstream media are lost, but this was back in 2011 when I was actually working at the now departed News of the World newspaper. And without us, And without our investigation back in 2011, there would be no pictures of Andrew and Epstein walking through Central Park in New York together. This story would never have been revealed to the world, ever. It was only these pictures that did so. And then it was the Daily Mail group which procured the picture of Virginia Giuffre with Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell taken by Jeffrey Epstein. Without those two pictures, there are no Epstein files, there's no Epstein arrest, there's no Epstein fake suicide. So spare me this absolute insane lie that in some way stories about Harry and Meghan were created to deflect attention from Andrew. You can have two types of bad behavior. You can cover two stories. Go and look at my bylines about this over many years, where I have dedicated huge amount of time and energy to reporting and uncovering what was really going on with Andrew. But it doesn't excuse the behavior of Harry and Meghan. And I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have this rewriting of history. They wanted to destroy the British royal family, and they still do. And I'm not defending Andrew for one moment, but what I would say is that it's very clear that his behaviour has been utterly stupid, utterly disgusting, utterly disgraceful, but it hasn't come from a place of wanting to tear down the monarchy itself. There's also so many lies when it comes to Meghan. I mean, seriously, why did David Boyes, then the lawyer for Virginia Giuffre, Andrew's accuser, want her to give evidence, for example? And as Meghan's mole posted, Meghan pretended she had no clue who Andrew was, despite stalking Eugenie. The only idiot who believed this was Harry. And I agree with that. I really do. So to suggest that in some way what is going on with Andrew, which I have devoted hours and hours of coverage to, I mean, yesterday we were live for, I think 5.5 hours covering every single detail of this arrest. But do not try and say that that means Harry and Meghan should get away with their unique, disgusting crimes against the British royal family, because I am not having that. I am not allowing history to be written. The mainstream media might, but I am not. And I want to bring in now Rob Shooter. He is, of course, the former royal courtier turned author and entertainment reporter extraordinaire. He is behind the Naughty But Nice Substack. And Rob, you have been all over this story too. And of course, we are going to get to all of the latest developments on what the hell is going on with Andrew. But I'm sorry, I cannot have this rewriting of history going on from Montecito, Rob. Like, I actually find it disgusting that they're even using this low moment for the British royal family to brief the media again. Like, just shut up at the moment.
I can hear it in your voice. Everybody listening, watching now can see it on your face. It's utterly disgusting. It's despicable. It's not going to work, though. Let's take a little bit of solace here. Let's have some good news. It will not work. What is happening here is that Harry and Meghan are using whatever opportunity they can to make themselves relevant again. They love to piggyback on a crisis. They love to make it all about themselves. And yesterday when Meghan posted this candle, this silly candle, not one person I know fell for it. We knew what she was doing. It's way too cute by half. It's Meghan and Harry showing us who they are. So pay attention to it. There is a crisis going on within their family. It's not my family, it's their family. They might not like them, but it's their family. There's a crisis going on in their family that could end this family as we know it. It is that serious. And they've decided this moment not to call the king, not to call his dad, the man that walked her down the aisle at her wedding, the man that accepted her into their family, or to call his brother. I find normally with decent people, when there's a family crisis, I know this has happened to me, you circle the wagons, you come together. This is a moment to really defend one another and to make sure one another are okay. Remember that famous quote when Meghan said, Nobody's ever asked me if I'm okay. Why isn't she asking? Why isn't she asking the king? How are you? This is his brother, his disgraced brother, who he clearly has deep feelings for. Why isn't he calling William and saying, how are you, William? You're going to inherit this mess. It is the Sussexes telling us who they are. But I promise you, Dan, this is not going to work. The response here in America is disgust. Shut up. Call your family. Get off social media. You've got their email addresses. You've got their phone numbers. Reach out to them. My sources tell me they have not reached out. They have not called. All they've done is posted this really silly picture. It's silly.
Yeah, and immediately got on the phone to their pals at People magazine. Right. Rob, you've got some brilliant reporting coming soon for Naughty But Nice, but can you give us a bit of a sneak peek, please? Because you are being told that the royal family now intend to take a very tough approach with Andrew. Effectively, he's on his own, is the message.
He's on his own now. He's absolutely on his own. Do not expect any visits to where he is now living, where he is staying up in Sandrington. They're not going to turn up. They are not going. They are not calling him. They are not emailing him. Andrew is now an isolated man. The big question is going to be, who's going to pay for this very, very expensive legal defense? He's got a case ahead of him. My insiders tell me he plans very much to pursue that. He's going to fight this. He's not going to roll over, but it's going to cost millions. Now, Andrew is a wealthy man by most people's standards. However, we know he does not like to spend his own money. I'm told he's not going to get a penny out of the royal family. And I think they're making the right move there. This would be an absolute disgrace if it came out that the king was paying for his brother's defense here. So they've cut him off. Don't expect any visits. Don't expect him ever to be seen with this family again. Charles has been reluctant to do this. I think he dragged his feet a little bit too long, maybe a lot too long. It's over. Now he has been arrested. The family are done. They have closed the book on Andrew. He is now an island. He's now isolated.
You're also reporting, Rob, and this is something that I also reported here on Outspoken yesterday, but you are saying Charles absolutely no intention of abdicating over this.
None. No, none whatsoever. So there have been emergency meetings. The king did not know this was going to happen. And so he was completely taken back by this. And so throughout the day, even though he did several public events, I'm told he was glued to his phone, and there was emergency meetings. I'm not sure if it was in person or over the phone with all the senior people of the family. Catherine and William were very much consulted about this. And there was absolutely no discussion about him abdicating. The family, as we know it, have rallied around him. And my insiders are telling me too, this is a very dangerous moment. The last thing they need right now is there to be a crown, a throne without anybody on it. And so I would not be surprised, Dan, in the next year, if his health makes him decide that he wants to take a step back and maybe abdicate then. But right now, the foreseeable future, the next few weeks, the next few months, he is not backing down. He's not abdicating. And if he did abdicate, he would look like he was guilty. And he does not believe he is.
Rob, I've got to ask you, though, about these sick new pictures from TMZ, because I keep saying to people, when everyone thinks, oh, it's got to its lowest nadir, actually, no, there's so much more to emerge. So this is Prince Andrew, and you might think, oh, quite cute, right? There he is with a little toddler back in 2011. And I first looked at these pictures, I'm like, okay, he's allowed to play with a child, until you see that ball that the toddler is holding is a breast. And TMZ reported that these very unprincely photos obtained by TMZ were taken back in 2011. And they say, just clean, wholesome fun until you realise the ball is painted like a breast, complete with a pale pink nipple protruding from it. The young boy appears to be horsing around with the boob ball while Andrew crawls around on a rug across from him in several of the snaps. A later pic shows them sitting on a couch together. Now, I was thinking about this, Rob. Is there any excuse? Is there any explanation? Is there any cute reason behind this? And I thought of my niece, and if I would ever play with her with some type of adult related toy, and it actually just made me feel sick. Of course you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. So what was he thinking, and what more is there to emerge?
Yeah, it just shows you how brazened Andrew had become. If you get away with something for long enough, you become more and more brazen about it. You become more and more of a risk taker. It becomes more and more normalized. In my past life as a publicist, I worked for Diddy. The Diddy I worked for 20 years ago had all the beginnings of a monster, but it took 20 years for him getting away with stuff, for him to ultimately end up in jail. And I believe the same is true here with Andrew. He has been getting away with this for decades, so much so that it's become part of his daily existence. We've seen the emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Sarah Ferguson, where she talks about her daughters. She talks about her daughter's sex life. This is who they are. This is the people they had become. This was a grown man who thought it was just perfectly acceptable to play with a lady's breast and a young child. That just goes to show you how out of touch, how delusional, how entitled this perversion was in their lives. It was there for everybody to see. If he's willing to do this, but more importantly, Dan, he's willing to be photographed doing it. This is somebody who's out of control. And finally, it's catching up with him.
Yeah, it's just gross, though, isn't it? When you look at it through the context of everything that's emerged. And of course, I guess people could say it's innocent. And I guess I would respond, well, yeah, it's just as innocent as sending pictures of your 19 and 21-year-old daughters to a man who is just out of jail for sex trafficking teenage girls. I mean, yeah, it's as innocent as that.
Yeah, the lack of judgment we are now seeing is absolutely shocking. It's absolutely shocking. I don't want to give Harry and Meghan more time on this show than necessary, but it's the same judgment that they have, that Harry and Meghan have here. And this comparison, running to People magazine saying how furious he is with the comparison to Andrew, that comparison has not really been made. I've looked back over at least coverage here in America. Very few people have ever compared them. They've not even made the comparison that both of them could call themselves the spare. And so I think here, once again, it is Harry and Meghan making a point that doesn't need to be made, but they've made it now. And if you want to talk about comparisons between you and your uncle, bring it on, because there now are many that had just not even crossed my mind until they put their foot in their mouth. And that's what Andrew does. He puts his foot in his mouth all the time. All this evidence is coming from Andrew and Sarah. This is not private investigators. This is not fearless reporters, including yourself. This is their own words. They have been taken down by their own words, their own deeds.
And Rob, you've also been reporting that there could be trouble ahead for Fergie, Sarah Ferguson too. I mean, Andrew Lowney was saying just yesterday he thinks she could be interviewed under caution by police. The princesses Beatrice and Eugenie could even have to go through that as well. What are you hearing?
I'm told she's already done several interviews before they raided his home, before they turned up at his house at 8 a.m. in the morning. They've already got a lot of information. And I'm told one of the people they have been speaking to over the last couple of weeks is Sarah Ferguson. Now the question is, will she flip to save herself? I think we all know the answer to that, knowing who she is here. They're not after Fergie. they're after Andrew. And so if Fergie will cooperate, there's a potential deal I'm hearing about. If she tells everything she knows, if she implicates him, if she provides even more evidence, I think they've got enough already, but if she collaborates it all, then he's in a ton of trouble. It would be such an ironic twist, a Shakespearean type twist, if the person that ultimately sealed his fate is the person that has defended him for the last 30 years. She knows everything. I've known Sarah for 20 years. She knows how to survive. For the first time, I think ever, for the first time ever, she's really feeling the pressure. Her back is against the wall. It is coming tumbling down, and her instincts is to save herself. I think she's already talking to the police, and if she isn't, she will be very soon. Andrew should be really worried about what she can say.
Wow, we are in extraordinary times. Unfortunately, this week, though, we have that little creep, Rob. You know who I mean? That weird sort of Michael Jackson-looking bloke, Scobie, now spreading misinformation in regards to William and Catherine and Harry. But you've got the truth.
The video suggests that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are making a new attempt to damage the royal family's image. It ties this claim to the situation surrounding Prince Andrew, implying that recent developments have triggered a coordinated response. To understand this properly, it's important to look at the broader context. Prince Andrew has faced significant controversy, which has already impacted public perception of the royal family. When his name returns to the headlines, it often reignites wider discussions about the monarchy. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have previously spoken publicly about their experiences with the royal family, including in interviews and documentaries. However, those were specific, documented instances, not ongoing or coordinated campaigns, as some narratives suggest. The idea of a destruction bid implies a deliberate and organized effort. However, there is no widely confirmed evidence that Harry and Meghan are currently engaged in any such plan. This appears to be an interpretation rather than a verified fact. The language used, words like sick, twisted, and destruction, is extremely strong. It's designed to provoke a reaction and create urgency, but it can also distort the reality of the situation by presenting speculation as certainty. One key tactic in videos like this is connecting separate events into one storyline. In this case, Prince Andrew's situation and Harry and Meghan's public presence are combined to suggest a coordinated effort, even without direct evidence linking the two. What we can confirm is that Prince Andrew remains a controversial figure and that Harry and Meghan continue to attract media attention. However, there is no solid verified information supporting the claim of a new destruction bid. In the end, this story appears to be a mix of real events and highly dramatic interpretation. Without confirmed evidence, claims like these should be approached with caution. What do you think? Is this a real strategy or just media exaggeration? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more clear, fact-based breakdowns.